Welcome, everyone. My name is Jacob. Thank you for joining me. This is Hunt Detail, and welcome to September. Congratulations, we made it. Seasons across the country are opening up. Pronghorn, elk, mule deer, whitetail seasons in North Dakota, Tennessee, Kentucky, some other states I'm sure have opened up or are getting ready to open up. And so it's obviously an exciting time. And today we're going to talk about some tips for the solo elk hunter. And if you're headed out west, if you're listening to this and you're in the car right now, I want to thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time and appreciate your support. And I think I've got some good tips for you here. If you're not going elk hunting, then you're like me. I'm not going elk hunting this year. I'll be going on a mule deer hunt later this fall. But I think going forward, I'm just going to make myself go on elk hunts until I can no longer walk. I do feel a little bit of regret for not putting in for a tag. I know I have enough points in a lot of states where I could draw, but I just decided to mix it up a little bit this year. So, but that being said, I wanted to, as we get into the tips, I wanted to give you a couple qualifiers for those that maybe have not listened to me before. I've been out west 3 times hunting elk, and one of those times filled my tag, a general tag, public land archery, and really two of them were pure solo elk hunts. The one where I did fill my tag, I was with my dad and my brother. I was hunting solo. They were sort of a mountain over or a ridge a ridge away. So I snuck into a bedding area and killed a 5x5 at about 30 yards on a frontal shot. And then the past 2 seasons, the kill was in Montana. Last year I was in Colorado, and the year before I was in Wyoming. And so I've bounced around a lot, and I can tell you every time I've gone and everywhere I've gone, I've been into elk by the second day, at most the third day. And so while I am definitely not an expert, I do have some experience and some relevant experience, and I have been somewhat successful. I mean, I've passed on cows, I've passed on other things, situations, and I've been in elk for usually the second or third day throughout the rest of the hunt. And last year was no exception. And so I have had some experience with finding elk, staying on elk, and getting opportunities. And so I wanted to get into some things to consider that again may help your own trip. And I think that starting with number one, and these are in no particular order. Number 10 is as important as I would say is number one, but you've heard a lot about it, is obviously predominant wind, but also thermals. It's really important that you're understanding the thermals as you hunt elk. They're using them significantly, and like most wild game, like most ungulates, their nose is really important to them, even more so than what they see and hear, especially with elk. And as the cool air is dropping in the morning, it's as it warms up around 9:30 or 10, that air will start to rise. Of course, it's depending on the slope. If you're on a southeast facing slope that's getting hammered by the sun, those thermals are going to start rising sooner. If you're on a northwest slope and it's very shady, those thermals are going to stay falling for a while. And you're going to want to think about that. If you hear elk or if you believe elk are in a certain area, you obviously need to keep that in mind. Now, it's difficult because it's such big country. It's difficult to say, oh, I'm just going to work around this ridge this other way and get in the sun or get in the shade and manipulate thermals that way. It doesn't always work that way. It's such big country. But if you're close, if you're in the game, always be aware of what's going on. That's where I use milkweed. I use it constantly because those thermals will shift as you move to a sunny area, to a shady area, and back to the sun. I've had them sort of even move laterally across the mountain, not necessarily up and down. So just always have an awareness of those thermals. As a solo elk hunter, number two, it's important to visualize and anticipate. Last year, I had a bull come crashing in up a ridge, like he was coming up to me, which normally you want to be on the same level or below them, but this guy was mad as hell and wanted to fight. And on some level, I did visualize and anticipate. I used some deadfall to put between us that would force him either in front of me or behind me to one side or the other. He came up sort of behind me, which was fine. As he came up, he would stop periodically, and I would see that, like the eye of Mordor looking through the trees. It's like this, it's amazing how they will do that. But he got up on my level 20 yards away, a massive 6x6. I mean, just a true trophy in any unit, in any country, in any any state. Um, and But the brush was still just a bit too thick. He wouldn't come all the way up. I mean, he was on my level, but he was looking for that elk. He was looking for that bull that bugled, and um, I had set up in a way where I again put deadfall between us, but he got to a point where I still couldn't get a shot, even at 20 yards. It was just too much brush and limbs, and that's why I say visualize and anticipate. I mean, I at 100 times out of 100, that may have happened the same way. If I moved a certain way, or if I moved further back, maybe I could have got a frontal, which would have been ideal. But again, I didn't know where he was coming, and he came up breaking limbs and really quick, and it just didn't happen. And if I had had someone with me to pull him further across that ridgetop, then it would have been a different story. If his attention would have been further behind me, uh, he would have been a different story where I could have pulled and got an arrow through him at 20 yards. But that wasn't the case. And when you're solo elk hunting, it's really, really difficult to um, to have everything happen the way you want it to happen. And number four, I'm sorry, number three is stay engaged. And there are times where the scene that I just described isn't happening. Like they're not talking. Last year in Colorado, they weren't talking during the middle of the day. There would be one bugle in the morning and maybe one bugle later in the evening or the late afternoon, but they were not talking. And so it's difficult to stay engaged. Now, what I would encourage you to do is if they're not talking, take a nap on a ridgetop and set yourself up to where you can you can hear audibly across a wide range of areas. So if there is movement or bugles, you're in a prime position to pivot. I would, mark where I heard those bugles late in the evening or early in the morning, and then I was able to pinpoint movement or bedding, and I was able to uh, break down their movement in the morning and get on them. Unfortunately, it was a cow and a spike, or a couple cows and spike, and the unit I was in was branch antlered only. But again, it's an opportunity to you want to continue to play the game, even because there are times where it's boring. There's nothing going on. You don't hear anything except those locusts or those crickets, and that sun is beating down on you, and you think, what the heck am I doing? This is very unproductive. But it's important to be strategic about how you can stay engaged. Number four is noise isn't bad. Like, I know sometimes in the whitetail woods we're thinking like we want to be as quiet as possible, and obviously that's not a bad thing either, to be quiet. And when 2 years ago when I was in Wyoming, I walked up on a bull with 4 cows, and had some sort of opportunities there. They had no idea I was there, but that was because I was quiet. But I will say that noise isn't necessarily bad because an elk herd is noisy, and if you run into a group of cows and a bull, a little bit of noise isn't necessarily going to draw their attention because they're used to a lot of noise. And so I would obviously want to be quiet. That's ideal, but it's not the end all be all. And if you have to buzz through an area to cover ground to where you feel like the elk are, then I would say buzz through it. Maybe you bump an elk, maybe you don't. But if you have the wind or thermals in your favor and you bump them, the impact is a lot less than if you scent bump them. So again, noise isn't necessarily bad. I would say stay mobile. It's surprising to me when I go out west that I feel like I'm one of the only people that truly is being mobile. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone that is consuming a lot of content, and you might think that there must be every other hunter is doing the same thing I'm doing, and that's not necessarily the case. Like when I was in Wyoming 2 years ago, I was shocked at how unmobile some of the hunters were, and meaning that they really weren't sort of bumping or jumping around or covering ground or what have you. And so I would encourage you to stay mobile and just maybe take a light pack and cover ground, call, find elk, and then maybe really sink in that area, or cover ground, call, try to find elk, don't find anything, pull out of there, bounce to another area, just keep bouncing. And that has been helpful for me to find elk um, rather quickly. Speaking of calling, number 6 is I would say call to locate, but not necessarily to shoot. So when you're a solo elk hunter, you're trying to find the elk, but I just think if you're gonna call them and you think that you're gonna get them to come into you and get a shot, it's difficult. And like I described last year in Colorado, that bull came in hot, looking for something or someone, looking for another elk, and it was paralyzing in a way because I once he got up to 20 yards, not only did I have stuff covering his vitals, but any movement I did was going to be picked off. And so really the ideal would have been if I bugled, he bugled back, and then I worked in towards him or towards that herd, but not call anymore. When you bugle and you move towards an elk, they tend to move off with their cows. And I know it's because they're not necessarily looking for a fight every time. They will tend to move off. So really what I would encourage you to do, and this is what I did when I killed my elk a couple years ago, is they were doing all the talking and I was moving into the herd. And that's how I killed my 5x5. I got into an area, he came on a trail, and that's how I got my shot. I didn't call him in. I think if I would have called, I would have got 1,000 eyeballs in my direction, or at least several, and then there would have been a downward spiral of attention and busting out those elk. And when you're solo, it's just different. And if you have someone with you, different story. They can set up 60, 70 yards behind you, and then you're going to have you may have an opportunity as an elk may come in to investigate. Number 7, I would say treat yourself. If you're out there on your own, make sure you download, make some room on your phone and download a movie or two, a TV show. I've been watching the new the Terminal List series season that just came out. I think it's a prequel sort of on Amazon Prime, and it's great. And that would be the exact type of content that I would want to watch while I'm out there. I remember watching the Yellowstone series or some of the other extensions of that series, the 1823 or whatever, and those are great. For me, anyways, those are great things to look forward to at the end of the day to watch on my phone or my iPad. Because it's like, okay, rough day, long day, gonna make myself some dinner, gonna sit here and just sort of check out a little bit and feel like a human because again, you're solo and you're sort of become like a caveman on some level. I would also say treat yourself as it relates to your food. And while I'm talking about food, you can use the code detail at redmond.life.com and save 15% on Relight Hydration Mix. It's got zero sugar. It tastes great. I love the pina colada. Or use the code detail and save 20% at Raw Rev. And Raw Rev protein bars are awesome. 12 to 13 grams of protein, like 2 grams of sugar, so very low in sugar. They're more of a peanut butter base. They're fantastic. So use the code detail. When I treat myself from a food standpoint, it's usually meals that I've dehydrated. And if you go to the Hunt Detail YouTube channel, you can see like some of those meals that I make that I dehydrate. And it'll be some sort of like rice with meat and vegetables. It's dehydrated. Then I'll add some olive oil in it, and it's just delicious. It tastes amazing. It's better I like it better than any other like store-bought dehydrated meal. But it's something that I look forward to. Obviously, there's other things that you can do, like a Snickers bar or some sort of Halloween candy or something like that. But I would encourage you to treat yourself. Number 8, I would also take breaks strategically. Maybe you hunt the morning and you come back to the vehicle and you're like, they're not talking during the middle of the day. So I'm going to drive in town. I'm going to call my wife. I'm going to check my work emails. I'm going to get myself a lunch or take a nap in the car or something like that. And I did that last year in Colorado because again, they weren't talking during the day. And so I could sit up on a mountain and take a nap or I could just, I finally was like, you know what, I got to take a brain break. I need to check in with some things. And that helped a lot because I got back in the afternoon, got back after it and was refreshed. Number 9 I would say is make friends. So 2 years ago in Wyoming, made a really good friend. My gut tells me that we'll hunt again when I draw Wyoming again. And then last year, there was another guy that was solo hunting that I did not go make an effort to make friends with. I thought he was with somebody else, and I just didn't want the hassle of it, I guess. And it comes to find out when I was leaving, he was solo hunting, and he had been there for a lot longer than I had. And I think if we would have joined forces, I think one of us would have filled the tag. And because we were sharing intel, I was sharing intel, or maybe we wouldn't have joined forces completely, but I think it would have made our experiences better. And the other piece of this is if you see someone that's solo elk hunting and you see maybe an out-of-state license plate, they are more like you than some people in your own family because they're as crazy as you are to do this sort of thing. Whereas some people that you might be related to are like, there is no way I'd do that or have no interest in that sort of thing. And when I got to connect with that guy, and I think I still have his number, I was like, wow, I should have connected with him sooner, but we were very much alike in the way that we think. And it was really, really nice. So I would encourage you again, make friends out there, share the space, try to help each other. Your hunt is going to be that much better. I wouldn't honestly go on a solo elk hunt if I had other people in my life that were crazy enough to do it with me. But unfortunately, I don't. And so I can't wait for that to change in my life. So the only option I have is to go solo elk hunting. But as you make more friends out there and find other solo elk hunters, it might be an opportunity to find a real long-term sort of hunting buddy, again, that is as crazy as you are to do this sort of thing and is dedicated. I would say dedicated is the other piece of that. Number 10, I would say enjoy the journey. It does go fast. It seems like 10 or 14 days is a long, long time, and it is. It certainly is a long time to do one thing, to be in the mountains, to be, by yourself, to talk to yourself for that long. um, it's, but it does go fast. And before you know it, it'll be January and you'll be like, gosh, that was an amazing adventure. That was an amazing experience. I got to really envelop myself into God's creation and to be a part of that and to feel the pain, the grit, the grind. Now it's January. I'm sleeping in. The days are short. I'm in a comfortable bed. It's we're just celebrating New Year's New Year's Day or whatever, and all that. It's just going to go fast, and you're going to miss it. And I would encourage you to try to do your best to not cut it short. Obviously, if there are extenuating circumstances at home or at work, and you have to cut your trip early, then cut it early. But if you're like feel like you need to go, maybe just set smaller goals for yourself. Like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to climb that ridge system at 4 in the morning today. I'm not leaving, but I'm going to sleep in and I'm going to hike a third of the way, or I'm going to bounce to a different spot, or I'm going to hike up, at noon or something different just to keep yourself there. Because if you leave, I promise you, like if you leave days, on the table, when you get to that first like city, maybe when you get to that first 25 miles away, you're going to be like, did I make the right decision? Was that the right idea, the right decision? All of a sudden I'm comfortable now and I have a little bit more mental clarity. And I may have made a bad decision when I was really, really tired or really, really worn down. And I just want to encourage you because things can happen. The magic can happen, but it can't happen if you leave early. And that's a message for myself, quite honestly, because there are times where I'm like tired, cold, hungry, exhausted. I feel the draw of work or family. I miss my kids. And then you just sort of throw in the towel and then you're like, and when I was in Wyoming 2 years ago, I cut a day and a half out. And I even did this thing too. I said this to myself. Well, if I kill today, I probably wouldn't get it all packed out by, tomorrow evening. And so you sort of tell yourself those stories. And it's like, you really, the truth is that you should say, to heck with it. Even if I kill on the 12th hour where I should have left, hours ago, things will adjust accordingly. You can tell your family, you can call in to work and say, I have an extenuating circumstance. I'm going to be there 2 days from now. And things will adjust. Life will go on, even if you kill on that 12th hour, even if you give yourself an extra afternoon. And so it's we only get so many Septembers. Enjoy it. Have a great time. I'm excited for you. Hey, if you get something, follow me on Hunt Details. Send me the pics. Send me a message. Tell me about the hunt. I love hearing about that stuff. And yeah. In fact, I want to encourage that. For those of you that have gotten to this point in the podcast, if you, when you're done with your elk hunt, send me a DM. Tell me all about it. I want to hear about it. And you don't have to tell me where you went. You just tell me about the hunt and what your experiences were. I'd love to hear about it. Best of luck. Congratulations. And we'll talk again next week.